Hi everyone, in today's video we're going to look at how to break in a pair of racing shoes for a marathon. Now on the whole here we're going to be looking at a carbon plated shoe or something similar where it's got a softer, more responsive midsole, a lighter upper material and potentially a carbon plate in there as well. Now most of these shoes, because they're different materials, do not last as long as a traditional race shoe or a traditional training shoe. So we need to make sure we are not being overly kind of heavy with the usage of these when we end up actually not being able to run in that pair of shoes on race day, but we do want to make sure they're comfortable and they're going to fit because you're going to be in them for a few hours. So what we need to look at is using the same pair of shoes as maybe you have done before. You would still want to break through that period. You still want to work through getting those shoes really ready and 100% happy with them by the time race day arrives. Even if you've used the same model of shoe, there might be manufacturing defects, there might be slight differences in quality, even if they're not defects that can affect how that shoe actually fits you. Your shoe might not also fit your foot anymore. If your foot has changed shape very slightly, if you're running quick on your running style now, doesn't mean that that is the best shoe for you. If you've traditionally used this particular carbon shoe or this model of carbon shoe over shorter distances, doesn't mean that that's not going to be appropriate for your marathon because of the different pace that you're going to be running at. There are loads and loads and loads of reasons why this is a really good idea today. I have seen people kind of not do this very well or not do enough of it, and they've then kind of suffered from on race day with blisters, with aches and pains, either running, actually finishing a race even without a shoe. I've seen a friend of mine do, and not that I don't for this reason necessarily, but shoes can cause issues if we don't get it all right, and even if we do, it can still be a problem on race day because of the sheer amount of distance and friction. So making sure we do break this in is a really good idea. Now we're going to look at this if you've got a new shoe. So assuming that you're coming into your marathon training block of say 12 to 16 weeks and you've got a brand new pair of shoes that you're going to wear through to race day and you're going to make that marathon happen in those shoes. Now you want to probably get about 4 runs in, generally speaking, at the very least. You could do more, but like I said, I don't want to kind of be overly heavy in the usage of these and wear them out without necessary usage. So we want to look at something initially like a 3 to 4 miles, something fairly light, fairly easy, getting a bit of tempo, perhaps in there at the quickest, but probably not running that quick in them. You could then also extend that to between 3 and 6 miles if you prefer, depending on the distance you plan to run and how experienced you are with that particular model. What we then want to look at is something between 10 miles and 13 miles, so up to half marathon distance in the shoe. That way you get a better idea of what you're going to be looking at with the shoe wear over a longer period of time. You can see how much of a benefit it does or doesn't give you in your racing as well, and opportunity then to go, actually, you know what, that isn't the shoe for me, I'm going to switch over. Next up, we want to do a long run in these. Now, you're going to be doing a lot of long running marathon training, so it's a great opportunity to use these. The tricky thing with this is that you do not want to be necessarily going flat out. You want to be getting some good tempo work in, some quicker running, but I would say you want to split your shoe usage. Say you're looking at a 16 or 17-mile long run, you've already run between 10 and 30 miles in this shoe, you know it works well. So across that, say 16 or 17 miles, you might want to run it for 10, 12, 13 miles again. You've then got the option to then swap out and to not be overusing the shoe, running something different. Change your shoe with 4 or 5 miles to go into your cool down potentially, or just an easier section of the run. Again, it doesn't have to be done that way. This is the one option when you can potentially skip, but it gives you an idea of how your foot is going to handle that wear for a longer period of time in the shoe and then obviously into a different shoe. Now, that is going to rub slightly differently, but it will give you an idea and also show you how much of a benefit that has in your legs. If you're feeling really great in the first half of the run, and the second half when you're going to normal pair of shoes, you'll really appreciate those carbon race shoes in particular. Lastly, and this is the one that really has to happen, you need to do a long run completely in that race shoe ideally. You want to be looking at something like 16, 17, anything up to 20 miles. If you don't want to go to 20, that's fine. You can do a shorter distance, but bear in mind the bigger the difference in between your longest run in the shoe and race day, there's more window for problems to arise. My view is that if you can get to 20 miles in your race shoe, you are absolutely golden, as much as you can possibly be for race day, and it's going to be absolutely fine. If the shoe starts to rub then, which is quite likely anyway in any shoe, then you can handle that probably for the last 10k. Whereas if it starts rubbing at 16, 17, yeah, maybe going to have to shift shoe and use something different instead. Or certainly some other tactics such as taping your toes, using different socks, putting some stitching inside of the shoe to make sure you've got some extra padding somewhere. There are little modifications you can make. Now, even if you're not using a carbon plated shoe, you still need to be doing your long runs in a particular shoe and get used to this. You don't use it every single time, but if you're using a non-carbon plated but racing type of shoe, or if you're just using a heavy supportive shoe that you maybe wouldn't use all the time, then make sure you do those long runs. Make sure you break those shoes in, transitioning through your models. Make sure that everything is ready to go and don't have any risks that you can take with the shoes on race day, most importantly.